beyond everything and everyone else, this is where the ultimate decisions within a housing association get made. But what even is a board? What is the function of a board? How does that differ from the work undertaken every day by the chief executive and their management team? And what skills do you need and what knowledge do you need to have in order to either be able to work closely with a board or indeed be on a board yourself? I sat down with some of the leading experts in the field of housing association governance and housing association law in order to find out.
So, housing associations, like many organisations, will be ultimately run by a group of people who are not the full-time staff. They're set up so that they can provide some independent challenge to the full-time staff. The full-time staff being the executive, which is where you get the phrase non-executive, because they're not employed by the organisation. In charities, they are all mostly volunteers. In housing associations, they might be paid. So they actually sit on top. They are the top rung of the organisation. They're not there to deal in the detail, but they do have a number of roles to play. So they will be, as a group, they will be setting the overall objectives of the business and the vision of the business, and within that they set plans and budgets and ensure that those budgets are being monitored. Because of course with any organisation you have to maintain the financial viability. If you don't remain a viable organisation, you can't do all the things you want to do for your residents. So you have to maintain financial viability, and within that they need to manage any risks that the organisation faces. All of us are managing risks all day long. They as an organisation have to manage risks, have to stress test a number of those risks, which is around putting them all together and seeing what happens if everything fails. What is our plan to get out of this? So they do quite a lot of work around managing the risks that the organisation faces. But they're also there to offer support to the staff, to challenge the staff's assumptions about various areas of the business. It's that whole area of independent challenge. And it's useful because I'm sure we'll talk a little bit later about what makes up a good board. And I think that ability to challenge is really important. But they've also got a role as a landlord as well, being the top level of the organisation. That group of people have got an ultimate role to ensure that the landlord function for a housing association such as Eastlight is working well. So they will want to make sure that information coming to them, that they can get some form of assurance around how good it is. For instance, around the servicing of gas boilers, overall health and safety issues around fire safety, electrical, Legionella, asbestos, all of that, those areas that they need to have a handle on to ensure that their landlord function is being kept up and is correct and within the law. They also have a function to ensure that staff and residents are treated equally and fairly, and that there's no undue discrimination going on, that rents and service charges are set and correct, and that overall tenants and leaseholders' statutory rights are being kept up, and that they are also receiving information from residents about the overall performance of the organisation. So it's quite a broad range of things there, but I think it's important to say that they're doing that at what's called a strategic level. So it's a high level umbrella kind of overview of the organisation rather than going into the absolute detail. What's worrying boards at the moment? What's keeping them up at night? I think there are a number of things which I'm sure you and people who are looking at this website will be aware of. I have to start by saying damp and mould. Mm-hmm. They'll be reacting to the latest unfortunate big event that's happened that's affected our sector. Mm-hmm. So damp and mould now, a few years ago, health and safety and fire and electricity because of Grenfell. It will always be the latest presenting issue in the sector. But I think there are also other things that are keeping any board, whether you're, as you say, a huge organisation or a tiny almshouse, worried and up at night. The recent rent increase of 7%, that's better than expected, but it's still a cut in real terms.
Now, compliance is a big one, and we know compliance is such a heightened thing at the moment, what with the Grenfell and a lot of health and safety issues, the recent mould issues. Compliance is one of the most important words that you'll hear, and that is about making sure that the business and the organisation meets the law and the regulatory expectations that are set on it. So that comes to that kind of risk framework and that compliance framework. So it's basically doing what you're supposed to be doing and ultimately protecting residents and providing good quality accommodation.
For anyone wanting to come onto a board for the first time, whether you are a resident or not, I think there are a few things that you could do as part of the overall process of landing on the board. I think first of all, be aware of what a board does and its responsibilities.
Engage with your association, speak to them about the different methods of getting engaged, not just from board. It would be lovely if people wanted to sit on the board, but also, for example, the Customer Influence Committee. I know that you've got the Academy, which is kind of an incubator programme, so that supports people that want to come through. You don't have to be a board member from day one. The support is there.
I think that I think it's really good that people want to come onto a board, but ask questions. Come into the organisation, ask questions of the executive. If you know of any other board members, ask questions of what it's like, just to get that feel of the difference of being on a board of a big organisation like Eastlight to maybe as you say, you've got a resident influencing group. That's great, but it's quite different from being on the board, and you'll discuss different things.
Maybe talk to some people who've actually sat on the board or sat on the Customer Influence Committee or sat and engaged in governance with the business already, because I think that'll give you and residents a better sense of what it actually means.